So I have something, and it involves the word love.
See?
And it also involves what it means to different people at different times. And I'm thinking about um, some things that have occurred over the last 40 or 50 years of my life, and the opportunity after the fact to look backward over the circumstances and the experiences and that sort of thing with an eye towards finding the gold and looking for the love
Oh,
of those experiences. I'm finding it to be a very healing journey in terms of taking the time now without having to have a conversation with anybody to go back and look for where the conflict may have been and make the other person right and then see what that feels like. And the harder it is, in my experience, to make the other person right, the more opportunity for breakthrough and giving up my position and having some more freedom in my life. That's kind of what I've experienced. I'm curious if either of the two of you have gone through any of that sort of introspection or something else that you've done in order to create more room in your I'll call it your love life.
I know I
well,
look back on
simple.
something
Oh,
that was specific, like that it didn't end well, but I remember being in a space with that person that was just so overwhelmingly in the moment, two people together, just sharing space together basically is what it was. And I don't think I've had that that feeling repeated. So I looked back on that relationship after it ended and just remember that moment, that beautiful moment, and base that relationship or the lesson of that relationship on that that particular moment and let everything else fade away.
Yeah, it seems like it gets easier and easier for you to language it, Lisa. I don't know if that's so, but when you actually think back about, you've shared with me what you're talking about, I think, and when you look back over that period of time, where do you see yourself standing in that memory? I mean, do you see yourself standing as who you thought you were as Lisa, or do you see yourself standing potentially from another perspective entirely?
I think from when I remembered it as such and could remember it as such that I was the person I am now looking back at it and realizing how um, brave and um, how much I got into the experience. It kind of surprised me. Let's put it that way. So I was looking at it from a the me now looking back at it. So it was kind of an interesting experience in that respect.
That's great. Ken, how about you?
the simple one that I was taught was just look at the world as it's being seen through the eyes of the people around you, without judgment, regardless of how you personally agree or feel or whatever comes up in yourself. You let that go. You just see it. So you're just seeing the world clearly. So just through their view, through their perspective.
It's kind of an interesting this I would call this a Western koan. It's impossible to see the world through somebody else's eyes, but the willingness to put yourself into that mindset and to open your mind and to allow that sort of thinking gets you to know more about yourself with regard to what you think they're going through. And the neat part of that is maybe it creates more room, maybe it just plain creates more space for people to be around each other, more space for yourself.
I think
Well,
as
if
you
you're
open yourself up to that possibility,
Yeah.
that what like you seeing those new colors, now you know that's possible, that's out there, and that kind of thing is out there all the time. Like, you just have to be in the moment enough with that person to realize that that's what you're doing together.
Sure.
Like your conversation with the girl in the mall, it's the same thing. That kind of same thing.
100%. It's kind of like having that question in the forefront of my mind, where else am I being myopic?
Right.
And then forgetting that I asked that question until the opportunity to notice my myopic vision, turns into something that's possibly transformational, or it's maybe something I walked away from in the past and wouldn't engage in because I didn't, I feared the outcome, or I didn't think it was appropriate, or whatever other story was there. But I say those are the things that we use to rob ourselves in our community and our culture and our world of intimacy.
Hmm.
And there is something very powerful about having a conversational exchange between two human beings that are hiding nothing, guarding nothing, and trying to make no point, just trying to learn. And you know, I don't know, maybe I'm a stoic. Is that possible?
Of course.
We all are,
Yeah.
We just get it chipped
whether we
away.
know it or not.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's, I guess if to jump over to the other side in the Buddhist practices,
Yeah.
it's not you are or you are not. It's just skillful and less skillful.
Yeah.
So some of us haven't practiced the stoic tendencies we all have inside of ourselves, so we're just not as skillful at it because we haven't tended to it, given it conscious attention. So, just because you've never run doesn't mean you can't run. It just means that you're not skillful at running when you do attempt to it.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it's like, the whole notion, and I have a lot of fun going through the whole conversation about self-examination. It's a small s to begin with. It's not a proper noun. It's a common noun that we all have a self, and that self like lives over here, and it's not part of us. But when you engage with um, the whole Buddhist philosophy that to win is to ultimately not fail in the battle with yourself, therefore constructing a self that and that is truly you, as opposed to a self that was designed by your culture or someone else given to you that you find no satisfaction in and no opportunity to grow. So that capital S that comes with the work that you do is like getting your college degree and actually putting your cap and gown on. And all that did was just kind of, verify, yes, you can learn something. You're not done. You're at the beginning again. And I really think that's a powerful way for people to take a look at it. And when they do, and when a group of them do, I think miracles happen. I really do. I believe the whole notion of using other people's ideas to bludgeon each other with, and immediately go from having a conversation where there's growth and potential understanding to one where someone gets called a name and the conversation is over. I want to see a lot more people get the intestinal fortitude to stand in the tough conversations long enough for the guard to come down wherever it is, because it's never on the other side. You have to operate like, when it's not working, what am I doing? How am I being? What would be called for in this circumstance to create a better result than how I'm feeling right now? It might not be a win. It might not be, all the way, but to quit when both people are upset and angry, having learned nothing from each other, those are minutes of your life and hours of your life you'll never get back. And that's why a lot of people just don't go there, in my opinion.
So to get into those sweet conversations like you had too, it's not just the tough ones, it's the
Yes.
the everyday ones that you're just not having.
Right.
And that could create the front porch kind of attitude. If you just take those sweet moments to have those sweet conversations with people, like you're on your front porch.
I completely love it. I'm going to work it into my 100-person project.
the other thing that's interesting about that is it's what feels like a sweet moment is relevant to the people experiencing it.
Yes.
It's kind of like, something that one person can find endearing, another person finds annoying. The behavior is the same or the expression is the same. It's the way it's perceived. So, and that's the one thing that we can control is, how we choose to perceive, what's happening around us. I remember, I think it was Martin Seligman in his positive psychology work. He was talking about the brain can either hold positive or negative oriented thoughts,
Yes.
but it can't do both simultaneously. So the more you are attracted to viewing or trained to view the negative in a situation, you literally can't see the positive. So if someone says, well, there's a positive there, they can't see that, they can't process that because they've crowded it out. And the reverse is also true. Stockdale used to talk about the optimists were the ones that didn't survive the POW camp because they couldn't hold the negative outcomes that they're probably not going to be home by Christmas, and they would just give in and fade away. So it's like it's not even it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing, and now it's just awareness. Where's your center of gravity, and is that appropriate to the situation you're in as you navigate?
We're actually describing a whole new game of communication and understanding and learning that has absolutely nothing to do with being great at a skill you already had. It's 100% of being an alchemist, and even though, I mean, we know that alchemy is a failure from the get-go, doesn't never stopped them, they're like the ant that moves the rubber tree plant in the song, right? And to start off with this really cockamamie premise that there has to be some way to take some elements and turn them into gold. If you stop and think about the narcissism and the ego attachment and all the rest of that sort of thing, if you took the conversation like this ideal unicorn kind of goal that's equivalent to an alchemist turning lead into gold, if you will, what in the dickens would the world look like when we're all out in the middle of a conversation, not trying to coerce somebody, not trying to explain, not trying to justify, just trying to learn, And then what would that muscle look like 5 or 10 years after folks got turned on about discovering what's up with other people to learn more about what's up with themselves? And that's another philosophical saying that I can't point to who said it. Ken, you may know, but in the end, whenever we attempt to learn more about somebody else, all we ever do is learn more about ourselves. We're left with a different understanding of who we now are.
Yeah.
It's kind of a beautiful sentiment, and I'm sorry I can't give credit where credit is due. So those of you
I'm
who
not
are
sure either.
attributing it to me, I'm happy to take it on. But I know I learned it someplace else. There's nothing that I say for the first time unless I do. So in the meantime, we're walking around the world. I don't know, are the two of you out and about interacting with people much these days with the spike in COVID again, and maybe it's coming down and flattening out, and I'm not sure about all that.
I haven't been
Yeah.
out much, but can you
Yeah.
probably more?
Yeah, especially doing a lot of outreach programs. So, and some of it's virtual, but it's also been quite a bit of in person as well, professional development days with teachers and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I used the word koan earlier. Maybe we can spend a minute or two and kind of, dive into that. My experience with koan is a question that, in Eastern philosophy is to allow one to be in the intellectual struggle of answering the unanswerable, and getting the answer is not the goal. Transforming who you are as a result of the process of thinking about it to really, really apply everything that you've got into an approximation